Hello and welcome to this video, filmed at the height of lockdown in the UK, a time when non-essential workers like me are allowed one outdoor exercise period per day. So now the dogs are barking and the sirens coming this way because some people have taken the rules to mean that they can have barbecues on the moors, and that's really not a smart idea. Fingers crossed they get to the fire before it spreads. There's nothing I can do to help, so I'm going to head away from the sirens and the dog barks, and at the moment I don't know where that'll take us. Probably that way. Now the dogs have quietened, and the sirens have delivered the fire trucks to where they need to go. I kinda fancy heading into town. It might be my last opportunity to walk the streets of my hometown, Hebden Bridge, before lockdown measures are eased a bit and the streets fill again with too many people to easily socially distance from. I've never seen it nearly deserted in daylight hours before. It's going to be strange. I don't think I'm going to take an obvious route though. None of the more popular paths, and away from the paths for some of it. There are people coming up. Thankfully, I'm almost at the end of a narrow bit, and distancing this time is quite easy. This place is charmingly known as Hellhole Rocks, a former quarry of lower Kinder Scout gritstone. I haven't actually been able to find out when it was carved out, or what the stone was used for, so that probably means it's older than most of the other quarries around here. They're usually identifiable as Industrial Revolution age, or younger. It's a good place for climbers, and there's a fair-sized murder of crows that live in crevices near the top. Now, town is that way, and it's the easiest way from town to here, so the highest chance of more walkers coming up. Or there's this way, narrower, steeper, perhaps harder to move out of the way if there's anyone coming up, but much less likely that there will be anyone climbing it. This way it is. Steep stone steps and twisted trees, dappled light and a light spring susurration. There is a deliberate gap in the footage there because I've decided to take a detour from paths to check out a Victorian dump site. Anyone who really knows the area will probably know where I am and where I'm going, but I am going to at least take the most basic steps to obfuscate where it might be. First, down to the stream, not quite a river, and it's currently very low after some very high highs earlier in the year. It's quite a pretty little valley, and I do rather fancy doing a river walk from the mouth to the source one day. It would have to be on a day like today with low water. It's a long climb and I couldn't do it if I had to weigh too much. There is where I suspect a dump site to be. A strange place indeed, but I have found out that the tunnel was part of a viaduct as part of mill infrastructure, and it, along with some land, was sold off to the local council in 1897. They built a small dump site on top of a viaduct and housing on the viable land. So first I shall check out the beaches before the tunnel mouth, then climb a bit and see if there's anything much to find. I doubt there'll be much on the surface, and I'm certainly not going to go digging. Please, please, any bottle diggers watching, leave it be as well, because as is so often the case, the council built a children's play area on top of the tip, and even a small dig into the slope could unstabilise things and cause accidents. That's pretty cool. I wonder what the intent was in that shape. Two back-to-back L shapes with perhaps a bit of a drainage channel in the middle. Any ideas, anyone? Rather looks like the slope has been covered in leaky dams to try and curb erosion, loosely knit little terraces made of sticks. I see some rust. That's an intriguing and sculptural piece. Not entirely sure what it might be. I'm sure some of you will have better ideas than I do. Please share if you do. The mill complex this viaduct was built to supply was built around 1789, although this was built in the 1860s leaky memory, sometime in the mid-19th century anyway. It didn't get more than a few decades of use before it was sold off and a tip built on top. It's very well built and I can't see any significant signs of deterioration. Anyway, there's the gully I'm going to climb up, with the assumption that where the water runs out of the site is the most likely place there will be things that the water has washed out. So my planned route is now hop down from this tree trunk, climb up that hill a bit, over about midway up I reckon, and then down to the drainage channel on the other side. The why of that is not just the added adventurousness, but I get to see more of what might be on the surface and what might have been caught in those leaky dams. There's certainly things to see. Teapot spout. Often the first thing I find in new sites. Some intact bottles. What I'm told is a milk bottle, the square-bodied round-topped one, and what looks like a slightly iridescent plain bottle with screw top. I keep catching little glimpses through the twigs, here and there, of treasures, and when I look, the appeal peels away, revealing something very ordinary and very broken. Marginally notable, this hillside is a large pile of old rubbish mixed with soil. People have put in at least a day or two of labour to try and slow down erosion, and they obviously didn't care about the vintage bottles underfoot, or the bright pink pig, I guess that's what it's supposed to be. Sometimes one man's trash is another man's trash. Well, I can already see that the little gully is tantalisingly full of broken things, and I'm not really here to grab things, I'm just exploring. so I might challenge myself to no touching. It's not a huge risk, but I don't have spare gloves with me or spare water to clean mud off my hands if I'm going into town later. Nothing particularly catching my eye down there, but in this middle section there's iridescent glass, blue and white pottery, stoneware, copper wire, more pottery, vulcanite stopper, and it looks like it might be a war grade one. But you know, I have quite a few of those already, and I'm sure someone will follow my path up here when the video is released. So, stopper, about halfway up. This video isn't going to concentrate on this dump site for long, there's very little of it exposed, but I am pleasantly surprised by the volume of what there is in just this narrow little stream path. Remains to be seen if I'm surprised by the quality. Glass stopper to go with a vulcanite one. It's plain, but nice to find nonetheless. Nothing hugely old or exciting, most things seem to be from about 1920s to 50s. When I release this video, unless it gets shunted back to autumn or winter, all of this will probably be waist high or taller with vegetation, and all the little tantalising things will be hiding. This is the flat land on top, and there's nothing poking through. It's been well buried. And here is the downstream slope, which somehow seems to be almost twice as long as the other side. I might have to go in that tunnel one day and see if there's a big drop, a weir perhaps. There are some bare looking bits on this hillside, so I'm going to have a look around, see if there's anything worth taking, or just filming. Someone did do a little bit of bottle digging here. Thankfully, it also looks like it's been reasonably well filled in. I do like the idea of bottle digging. I've done it once with permission, and it was great fun. And it's perhaps the most likely way for me to find an intact cod bottle. I'd need permissions to do it again and film it this time, so if you have an old domestic dump site on your land, or permissions that extend to guests, I'd be happy to hear from you. Not that I can currently travel, but you know, networking. So, a sunny day on the canal bank in a tourist town. This is a very strange time. I'm not complaining. I was relying on this route being quiet, and it is nice to enjoy the bustle of birds amongst the stillness of a deserted human space. Some honesty, not bad in salads, but no foraging from places people commonly go for a while. And looks like there's some geese ahead, probably quite hungry since they're usually fed by walkers here. I do have some snack foods which aren't great for them, but aren't terribly bad either. I think their stomachs probably won't reject fruit and grain snack bars. Oops, I forgot. I'll have to wash that hand with antiviral foam now, in case of a small possibility that someone with COVID-19 did similar. Such beautiful singing voices they have, but I think I prefer the temperament of the Canada geese. One bike on the whole stretch isn't bad so far, and he very kindly rang his bell well in advance, so I could duck into the courtyard here while he passed. But there's another one coming this way, getting too busy for my liking. Possible future mudlarking spot. It'd be a short video, but nice to finally get down there after eyeing it up for the last year. I'd almost forgotten about the floods in February. A lot of shops still haven't reopened, and some probably won't. But the town will survive this. It's a place with a good sense of community, and it's recovered from devastating events a fair few times over the centuries. It rather looks like a lot of birds have gone hunting for food elsewhere, a few hopeful pigeons remaining. But alas, I have no more food suitable for birds today. There are some wonderful people in town who I know are feeding them through this, and running their businesses in large parts to fund a bird rescue operation. This is the central square of the town, with an odd sculptural centrepiece supposed to represent a fustian blade, as corduroy was once the major industry here, and it wasn't all that long ago that it was still nicknamed Trouser Town. This is Crown Street, the central of three main streets that make up the town centre. I guess it would probably count as the central business district if this town was scaled up to city size. This is the third of the main streets. It's generally overlooked by visitors, and it really shouldn't be. That there used to be a lovely vegan cafe with a tattoo parlour downstairs. They're the ones who look after the birds. It's not closed down, they were moving somewhere bigger when the lockdown hit. There's another nice cafe in the building which is recessed from the street a bit, and over here there's an Indian restaurant who aren't at all bad. They'll never be able to compete in my estimation with one in Whitley Bay near Tynemouth, but they're fine. And down here is V&A, perhaps the most important shop in the town for me. It's an artist collective that I'm a small part of. It was hit very hard by the floods, which took out a supporting wall in the basement, and the pandemic has slowed progress on rebuilding it. But in more normal times they've stocked and sold my books and little comics, some of the models, the prints and wire sculptures that I've made, and more importantly they've been good friends through some tough times. This is the bridge from which Hebden Bridge takes its name, and it crosses the Hebden. So the name of the town was not exactly imaginative, but few places are ever named with flair and flamboyance. It's been here for more than 500 years, and painstakingly restored once, which involved taking all the stones out of place, replacing all the mortar and putting them back exactly where they were. This is by no means a full guided tour of a town. I'm currently heading out of it, up the cobbled walkway known as the Buttress and back to where I'm staying. That's largely because dodging people is tiring, and the hot weather today has been enervating. But it is a tour of sorts, so I should probably say at least something about what this town is famous for. Small independent shops, a welcoming environment, and a lovely variety of walking routes surrounding it. It has a vibrant music scene, a lot of artists and creative people being creative. It was once the home of Sylvia Plath, Ted Hughes, and Ed Sheeran, who spent the first 4 years of his life here after being born in nearby Halifax. It's generally a nice place to visit, an expensive place to buy a house. I rather suspect my tour guide abilities are better, or at least better practiced, when centred around the rivers. But if there's enough interest and enthusiasm, I wouldn't mind trying a further, more in-depth tour of a town one day, when the current predicament is behind us. I do hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have enjoyed it and would like to help this channel in any way, then any gesture would be welcome. The standard options are leaving a like, a comment, subscribing if you'd like to see more, pressing the bell icon that appears thereafter in order to get notifications of new releases. You can, if you so wish, buy me a hypothetical coffee through Ko-fi or something off my Amazon wishlist. But please never give more than what you can easily afford. I am very grateful for all the support, it's helped so much. Thank you all very much for watching, and for now, goodbye.